Hello everybody and welcome back to the Winning Agenda's coverage of the Sorcery Discord League. My name's Jesse Muirman-Marshall. Today we've got a match against Gerodimus, still using our Battlemage deck. The deck that I did a deck tech for, and again if you haven't seen the Battlemage deck tech, feel free to jump across to the link that's going to be in the description below, and you can watch the description of each of the cards in this deck and why they're here, and then come back and watch the gameplay. Otherwise, you can just feel free to stay along and learn by diving straight into the deep end. So we've got two different towers, which is a great opening hand on the sight side of things. And we've got a Mirror Realm, which will probably mulligan because it doesn't work very well with the sights that we've got here with the towers. And then we're mulliganing away two spells. I think it was a Chain Lightning and a Hearst Eagle, maybe. I missed the second spell. But we're keeping a Phase Assassin, and we're hoping to draw a 2-drop there so that we could play it on turn 1. But instead we got a Browse, which is not really one you want to have in your opening hand. It's got 3 air thresholds, so even though it's 1 mana, you can't actually play it till you have 3 threshold. And then we've got a Grapple Shot, which is more of a late game play. So a little bit of a slower start for us here, but I don't know if we're on the play or the draw. Let's find out. If we're on the draw, this is fine, but it looks like we're on the play. So we start off with a Dark Tower and no spell, unfortunately. So next turn we're going to play this Lone Tower, which is different to the tower we have in play because we've got the Dark Tower in play, and therefore the Lone Tower is going to generate 2 mana and let us play out that Phase Assassin. So our opponent is playing a Village and a Villager, and somehow, thanks to TTS, their Villager has just eaten the village. The village has disappeared. So while they figure that out, we'll have a look at what we draw. There it is. Somehow got shuffled in with the foot soldiers. Okay, so we've got a Sorcerer on the other side of the battlefield again, so we do need to kind of get a bit aggressive. Men of Ling, which would have been a nice play on turn 1, especially with that Grapple Shot we've got in our hand. But we're kind of fine to play the Men of Ling on turn 3 as well, or just play it later if we want to Grapple Shot our Avatar across on turn 3. So Phase Assassin, we'll just get in there. Probably going to have to contend with that foot soldier, which is pretty annoying. It basically means that their first site that they played, that village, has gained them 3 life if that foot soldier gets to block our first attack from the Phase Assassin. And, 3 life is a lot just to get for playing your site. So that's pretty good. It can also, of course, the foot soldier is more versatile than just 3 life. Like it can do a lot of different things, such as teaming up to attack and kill one of our minions, for example, rather than just chump blocking. So our opponent's got 4 spells and 2 sites in hand. Drawing a spell. So are they going to play their second site to the middle side here? That's the big question. If they do, it's kind of good in a way for us because we have the option to Grapple Shot next turn straight across the board. If they play to the side and we take the middle site, then we can still play our site and Grapple Shot our Avatar across, or we can play the Men of Ling right up next to their Avatar, which is also a decent play. So they do go into the middle, but they get another Villager, which kind of makes the Men of Ling play a bit worse. It also makes the Grapple Shot play a bit worse because they've got someone that we're going to grapple into. So that's one downside of Grapple Shot, is that if they can get something cheap in the way, then you can't actually just grapple straight across because you're going to run into the little minion hanging out on the site. I mean, it's not too bad for us to do that. It just makes the Grapple Shot into an expensive blink that doesn't cantrip, but it removes their Villager. So that might be good enough for us here. So we tap, play our third site, and we can actually play the Browse effectively for free here because it gives us... oh no, we've only got 3 mana, so it's not quite for free because we already have a Dark Tower in play. So we're going to attack and try and draw out that chump block here, because if they do chump block, then it makes our Men of Ling play a lot better. They choose not to chump block. So we play the Men of Ling, and then we're going to Browse, which, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I think blowing the Grapple Shot there just to hit a village is pretty bad. I would much rather have the Grapple Shot hit their Avatar at some point, whether it's with our Avatar or with one of our minions. So we get to choose basically between Flaming Sword, Phase Assassin, Spectral Stalker, and Men of Ling. And I think we're going to take the Flaming Sword here. Yes, so Flaming Sword goes into hand because we've already seen sort of a lot of chump blockers from them. And one of the nice things about Flaming Sword is it gives you that bit of evasion or just splash damage, lets you hit everything on the site. It is going to mean that we're going to have to spend another turn tapping to play out our 4th site, but we're not too upset about that. But our opponent is starting to, get a lot of cards in hand and a bit of board advantage given that they've got both of those villagers there to block, and they can, of course, gang block to kill our Men of Ling, which is pretty huge. So they play a lone tower, which they haven't got any towers at the moment, so that's going to generate them 2 mana. So they go up to 4 mana here. And then they've got 6 spells in hand, so quite a lot to choose from. And they go with the Pudge Butcher, which is a powerful play. That's a 5 power minion that's pretty hard to get rid of. That's going to sit on that site and threaten to hook in any of our minions that want to tangle with it. So pretty awkward for us, actually. We don't like seeing Pudge Butchers ever. Particularly in this board state with some other little chump blockers hanging around, it's going to make it pretty hard for us to kill it. So we drew a spell, which is interesting because it's going to mean we pretty much are locked into grapple shotting here. Probably in hindsight would have preferred to draw a sight there so that we could get the Flaming Sword down. The interesting thing about Pudge Butcher though is that it can't block. So if we attack... So we attack with our Phase Assassin first because it's worse for them to block Phase Assassin because they're just chump blocking. And then we have the choice about whether to attack with the Men of Ling. We can also teleport our avatar, or we can grapple shot our avatar too. So I think what I choose to do here is attack with the Men of Ling. I possibly attack the Pudge Butcher, hoping that they don't intercept with their villager. Yeah, and I think that's what's happened. So we're dealing 2 to the Pudge Butcher, and then I think we're just going to spend the grapple shot, killing the Pudge Butcher. So that's a free strike effectively onto the Pudge Butcher to finish it off. So 2 from the Men of Ling, and then 3 from the Battlemage with the grapple shot. And then we get to attack with the Battlemage, which is nice because that's the only way that we could really tangle with the Pudge Butcher without having to cop 5 by attacking it with our Battlemage, because of course it would strike back. So instead we get to eat the Foot Soldier and draw a spell. And although they're still on 14, it feels like a lot better of a board situation to have our Avatar and a Phase Assassin on their side of the board here, with the option to play a Flaming Sword or a Gaia Hippogriffs next turn potentially. But our opponent has had some pretty powerful minions so far, and this looks like a Dalcian Phalanx, which is another 5 power minion coming down on their side of the board. So it's very possible that our life total could disappear pretty quickly. Because of course all it takes is 4 hits from 5 power minions and you're done. You go straight down to Death's Door. So they've tapped to play a Dark Tower, which is again a different tower to the Lone Tower they have in play. So they get 2 mana. So it's 2, 3, 4, 5 mana for them. And then they pass. So untapping our Battlemage. We've got a free city, which is not going to be super impactful at this point. But at least it's an extra mana, because the Dalcian Phalanx is going to be able to attack our tower, and our free city won't be able to intercept. So we've got our Phase Assassin hiding back there. We've got the Dalcian Phalanx can't intercept backwards, so that's kind of good for our Phase Assassin. It means our Phase Assassin doesn't have to worry too much. It'll just probably eat the Foot Soldier, although we can eat the Foot Soldier with our Oh no, we can't eat it with our Battlemage because we've tapped to play a site. So we like to play the Gaia Hippogriffs just to get the other minion down, which I think is a good call. And then we attack and they block with their foot soldier. So they've now got a 5-power minion on the board and we've got 2 3-power minions. So it's not too bad a situation really. You know, they've got 4 cards in hand, we've got 3 cards in hand, but our cards are pretty good. If we really need to, we can Whirling Blades on a turn to clear out the board and get through blockers with some evasion. We've also got the Flaming Sword that deals with multiple chump blockers. So what we really want them to do is to play multiple small minions. You know, we don't want to keep seeing these 5-power minions because they're pretty much the hardest thing for us to deal with. Flaming Sword puts our avatar up to 4, but that's not going to kill the Dhalcyon Phalanx. So we're in a bit of a delicate spot here where if they play another 5-power minion, particularly one that can block on their avatar's site, it can get pretty awkward for us. They've tapped, I think, to draw a spell there. So they're up to 5 cards in hand and they've got 4 mana. So we've got the Gaia Hippogriffs and the Phase Assassin for 6 damage and then 3 from the avatar. So also thinking through, obviously, getting your opponent to Death's Door is very important as early as possible. But at this point, it's not looking like we're going to be able to get them to Death's Door next turn unless we top deck a Gaia Hippogriffs, basically, and they don't remove any of our minions. And they don't block us. That's probably asking a little bit too much. So they hadn't tapped to draw a spell yet, but now they have. So they're up to 6 spells in hand. And this is where the Sorcerer can really, again, cause a lot of problems. So thankfully, they play a 4-power minion, which is big sigh of relief for us. So we've got the perfect answer to 4-power minions. They just attack us for 5 with their Dhalcyon Phalanx. They don't move forward. They just attack the avatar straight up. And we will draw a spell, I'd imagine, here, because we want to get closer to finding a better follow-up to the Flaming Sword, because neither Teleport nor Whirling Blades is ideal as a follow-up. So Grapple Shot is an interesting one because it does let us both finish the game and gives us a bit of versatility in terms of dealing with things. But with a 4-power minion sitting on the same side as their avatar, Flaming Sword is just the perfect answer. So we are going to take 4 from that because we're going to attack the avatar, because you have to attack a unit. You can't attack the site in order for Flaming Sword to function. Because it works at the struck units location, and they're going to block with their unicorn, which makes a lot of sense because they get the free 4 damage on us, but we still get to splash over the 4 damage onto their Sorcerer. And then we get to attack them for 3 with the Phase Assassin. We're going to attack on the Dhalcyon Phalanx's site, and then we're going to, I think, attack them for 3 with the Gaia Hippogriffs, I'd imagine. Straightforward, and put them to 1. So 1 is a lot better than 0, because not being at Death's Door gives them a whole nother turn. But at this point, really the equation is, can they stop us from putting them to Death's Door next turn? Because if we get them to Death's Door first, then we're going to just be able to kill them with Whirling Blades no matter what. Because Whirling Blades lets us strike with our avatar across 3 different steps without being struck back. So even if we're at Death's Door, we can still kill them, which is another very important part of Whirling Blades. So if we put them to Death's Door, then they put us to Death's Door on their turn. We can still kill them with the Whirling Blades, or the Grapple Shot, but certainly with the Whirling Blades. Grapple Shot is a little bit more, it might be 90% rather than 100%. So they play the Observatory, lets them look at the top 3 cards of their spellbook and put them back in any order. They can't put any on the bottom though, so they get to have a look, put them back in any order, and they don't get to draw any this turn. So they're just choosing what their draw is going to be on their next turn. So that Gaia Hippogriffs getting the 3 damage in the last 2 turns because it had haste was pretty huge. You could see what an impact that had on speeding the game up just enough to allow us to get that advantage at getting them to Death's Door. Even though we had to take 4 from the unicorn, it was still a nice way to get some additional damage on them. The other thing that we could have done actually last turn, which just looking back on this, I realized would have been a better play and avoided us taking 4 from the unicorn, although it would have killed our Phase Assassin, would be to put the Flaming Sword on the Phase Assassin, attack with the Phase Assassin would die, and then we would pick up the sword with our Battlemage and then attack them. I wonder, I'd actually need to look at the rules as to whether if the Flaming Sword's been attacked with by the Phase Assassin, it's died, then our Battlemage can pick it up and attack with it. Because at some point the rules for relics prevented you from doing that, but I can't remember whether the current rules do, because that would have actually allowed us to put them to Death's Door last turn. So that's an interesting thought. So having a look at the Flaming Sword, they've got their Dalcian Phalanx there, which is going to make it a little bit harder for us to attack them next turn. But we are still going to be able to put them to Death's Door with the Gaia Hippogriffs. This is that situation where, although they're going to be able to get us to Death's Door next turn, the fact that they can't do it this turn means they're sort of one turn behind the cycle, and Whirling Blades is going to give us that certainty of being able to finish it off. Especially since we can tap to play, we can draw a site, tap to play the site, and play the Whirling Blades all in one turn, and that's no problem, because the Whirling Blades lets you strike even if you're tapped. So they're just double checking. So an ally may take 2 steps, even if they're tapped, they get to strike everything on those sites that they move through. So there's a reason that Whirling Blades cost 5 mana. It's pretty powerful. And it's the only 5 mana spell in the deck for that reason. So it's giving us a sense of certainty that if they can't get us down to 0 here, then we're probably going to win this game. So they tap to draw with their Sorcerer. They've played a Dalcian Phalanx this turn, so I think they might have 1 mana left and nothing they can do with that. Oh, they're going to attack with their Dalcian Phalanx, which is a reasonable call. I think at that point I was wondering whether they were keeping it back to block, but no, they want to attack with it, which is fair enough. So we'll choose to draw a site, I think, here. And that gives us the extra mana because it's the tower trifecta. So we'll go up to 6 mana, but that doesn't really matter that much. 5 and 6 with our current hand is much of a muchness. So in actual fact here, what we can do is play a little bit more defensively. We can just attack with the Gaia Hippogriffs. They can't actually defend. And then we can keep everything in hand. But instead we choose to play a little bit more aggressively, clear out all their phalanxes, put them to Death's Door, and then we've just got the Hippogriffs sitting there. Oh, so no, they think that we kill their thing straight away, but I'm saying, no, bring back your phalanx. I have to actually sack both of my minions to kill your 2 phalanxes. But now I'm relying on that teleport kill. Because the thing that this play does, spending the Whirling Blades in that way, is it means that they have to actually invest mana next turn to get us to Death's Door. And I think with only 4 sites on their side, oh no, they've got 5, sorry, with 5 sites on their side, it's going to be hard for them to both deal us 5 damage and on this particular turn with haste effectively, and stop us from killing them with teleport or grapple shot. Because of the way that their avatar is positioned, they're going to have to either stay on that site or move to the side to try and get away from us from a grapple shot, but then we can still move, tap to move, and then grapple shot them. So both grapple shot and teleport here are almost certain kills, and we've made it a lot harder for them to get us to Death's Door by sacrificing our minions last turn to finish off their phalanxes. So they tap to move, they play a Philosopher's Stone, effectively putting them on neutral mana. Oh, no, they changed their mind. So yeah, they do play the Philosopher's Stone. They play a Dispel to kill our Flaming Sword, which is actually a little bit scary in a way, in that now it's easier for them to chump block us out. So they played a Philosopher's Stone, a Dispel, and then do they have a chump blocker as well? Okay, so they put the Autumn Unicorn there to try and block us, but that means their Autumn Unicorn actually can't block on the site that their avatar is on. So we just teleport across and then strike their avatar. We could teleport and then grappling hook to save ourselves the damage if we want to. But we just strike them, take one, and finish them off. So that's the end of that one. I hope you enjoyed the game. It was a really, really interesting one. They had a fair amount of beefy minions, all those five power minions, which are really hard for us to deal with, but it shows you how the combination of things like Grapple Shot and Whirling Blades, if you are able to play them effectively and at the right time in combination with minions, can allow you to deal with those bigger minions and still get in enough damage to win the game. So that's a great example of the Battlemage deck doing what it does. Hope you enjoyed. If you've got any thoughts about sorcery content you would like to see, how you'd like to see it presented, or any feedback on the videos, please let us know. Otherwise, look forward to seeing you in the Contested Realm soon. Cheers.